Hello and welcome back to Slot Leader. My name is Umed Saidov and I'm joined by Tom Flynn, my co-host. How you doing, Tom?
Hey, doing great, Umed. Good to be back.
Yes, so everyone, today we are going to be focused on Cardano ecosystem again, and today's guest is Hinson. He is the CEO and a co-founder of a DEX called DeltaDeFi. But before we get into the interview section, I wanted to kind of catch up with my good old friend Tom and see how things are in the market and kind of like do an overview of what's happening in crypto before we delve in.
Oh yeah, man. I don't know what your experience is, but our industry is changing so fast that it's very hard um, to articulate it in just a few words, right? But the overwhelming avalanche of changes coming with agentic AI has the entire industry. As you know, we talk about this every time, but it's literally changing by the hour. And I don't know what you're seeing. I mean, I know you were just on a vacation with your family.
Yeah.
Maybe you're having some FOMO from being away from your computer. But the advances with OpenClaw and Claude Code and these things, and it's all changing minute to minute. And it's becoming apparent that the intermarriage of blockchain and agentic AI is a game-changing marriage, right?
Yeah, that's an amazing sort of topic to discuss, and I definitely have been following some of the news, of course, on and off, but in the past 2 weeks, but definitely see the shift, and I think you know the open claw basically changing the entire sort of compute or how we think about computers in general, that paradigm was one of the greatest steps. But then, as you said, everything is changing by the hour. We recently found out, or at least I found out, that Claude now allows you to do all sorts of things that the open claw allows you to do, but within the within the app itself for $20, and you don't have to buy any hardware, do any custom configurations and things like that. So yeah, I'm super excited to see where this whole thing is gonna go. I think there's gonna be a lot of changes, rapid changes coming into fruition, and I honestly don't know where it's gonna go, but what I have a feeling, or an insight, I think that blockchain and AI are going to be very closely interwoven, and the amount of transactions, the amount of activity that the AI will probably generate on blockchain is going to far surpass anything we've seen with the retail or institutional. Um, so yeah, that's sort of my kind of take on it, and I think it's important to sort of realize also the disruption that's coming from agentic AI into the blockchain. We talked about it earlier, and my take is that the dexes that are purely made for human consumption and are kind of cumbersome and whatnot, they might be a little bit in a tough spot, and the survival of these dexes and all these dApps will depend on how interoperable they will be with the AI going forward.
Yeah, I think everybody's going to adjust to that. And I would just say for anybody listening, just a word of advice. If you haven't, it would be a good idea just to check out some of this technology. I think you'll find that it's very easy to use. There can be something of a mental hurdle with people in getting into it, but with Claude in particular and Claude Code, the difference is Claude is a chatbot like you would use ChatGPT. Claude Code is a desktop application that you can download that can interact directly with the applications on your computer. It has reduced the complexity of technical work to a level that anyone can do it, and I'm not exaggerating at all, which unlocks creativity on a level that it hasn't really been available before. So we have people who are business developers or operations people. They're creating demos on blockchain with full GitHub repositories, doing it within a day, within an afternoon. Just for an example, what does this mean for business development when a business developer can create a working demo of a product alongside with the deck, a website, including a podcast using Notebook LM, and present all of this to a client, right? One person. So this is really making every single person on the team 10x productive. There is no need for the dependencies of waiting for other people, other teams. If you need a UX, you can do it yourself. So you got to think about this as a 10x multiplier on your effectiveness. And I would advise just to dive in, or if you have a friend who knows how to do it, I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is and how fun it is.
Yeah. Talking about the everyday people creating tools that they, you know, were or tools or solutions that were probably hard to create and would have had enormous hurdles to create those things is just an amazing sort of angle to approach this. Two data points that came up on my feed for the past 2 weeks was that one person in Australia created an mRNA a vaccine for his dog that treated his cancer using Claude, I think. That was pretty impressive. And then there's another guy who created a custom built solution for your Tesla chargers. I think
Wow.
looking at the specs, and he's an electrician, of course. Granted, you have to know something about these things. You cannot just say, "Hey, code me a better solution or something." But yes, using AI, he was able to create a better, faster, I believe, charging solution for Teslas, and you didn't have to pay $2,000 for it. You could just buy things off the market. As far as I know, this my memory is foggy, but you can check it out yourself. But yes, AI is changing the world as we speak, and it's such a great time to be alive. And I keep saying that blockchain does basically unlock this kind of mentality in me, because you could transact with anybody in the world without having to worry about any of these hurdles that you're put through with the financial industry. And I know if you've bought a house, you've probably seen those kind of things. But yeah, it's great to be able to do these things. But anyway, I wanted to keep this introduction short. We're gonna go into the interview shortly. Stay tuned, and I hope you enjoy the conversation we're gonna have. Hi everyone, my name is Umed Saidov, joined by Tom Flynn, and today's guest is Hinson. And he's the co-founder and the CEO of DeltaDeFi. It's a DEX, an order book, automatic order book, as far as I know, but he can delve into that. That is built on the technology called hydra heads. It's an extremely fast and efficient sort of experience for users, and I've been using it for a while. And I'm super excited to have him on board, because it's been a long time since I wanted to see something like this on Cardano, and I'm super excited and glad that Hinson and his team has created something like this running on Cardano. Hinson is a CFA charter holder. Just like me, and we have more in common than just being part of the Cardano community. Hinson, welcome to Slot Leader, and it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So,
should I start with a intro?
Yeah, I think we last met in Berlin, where you were working on upgrading the protocol to V2. And but before we go into that, I wanted to basically ask the background question. How did you join Cardano and came up with the idea of creating a fast and efficient DEX?
Yep. So I joined Cardano, I think, somewhere around 2021 and 2022. And just as most of the charter holders work in the banking and finance industries, And then one day, kind of studying about the blockchain technology and found that there's a massive gap in the DeFi landscape. There's a lot of products that we assume in traditional finance that we cannot find it in the blockchain industries. So start to think about building something kind of, bring the traditional finance stuff to the blockchain ecosystem in general. Then I first start to research on what is the more secure way to do so, because in traditional finance, we know that when you're handling money, extra care must be placed or in place. So I come into a fast conclusion very early on that UTXO blockchain is more secure. And I just open up CoinMarketCap to find which UTXO blockchain can support smart contract. Then just get into Cardano that way. Yeah. Nice. So go to your questions of how did I kind of eventually arrive at the current concept or idea. It's actually when you look back to DeltaDeFi, this name, for example, you try to search on Project Catalyst, you find the first ever proposal we have written is about option. I just come with a very simple idea of try to bring something non-existing on chain. But after we have some mock-up and we try to talk to some traders in our personal connection in Hong Kong, even they're crypto traders, we get a user feedback very quickly that they never trade on chain. Like for all of the traders we talked to early on, they said they will place every single trade on Binance, for example. And we try to boil down into why they never interact with the protocols, no matter Ethereum, Cardano, Solana, whatsoever. They just simply mentioned that because for the basic experience, the trader experience is just not there if they want to trade on chain, namely the speed. Like they want instant, because trading strategy that they implementing, they pretty much want instant feedback on whether the order is successful or not. They cannot wait for the blockchain to confirm. Second, as for example, some professional market making activities, they have to place the orders the same second and cancel a bunch the next second. And these things, when they happen on interactive brokers or Binance, they didn't charge fee for that. They only charge on the order executions. And if you think about even a native order book DEX on L1, for example, those are a bunch of, they call gas fee in Ethereum, or we simply call transaction fee in Cardano. So it doesn't really make sense for them. And if they want to have professional access, they have to get the API. They won't go into the interface to try to click to place some order or swaps. So these few things combined together, we come to the early idea of, rather than building product, but going to a more fundamental level of solving these trading core pain point on chain prior to bring more kind of derivatives or whatsoever on chain. Yeah.
That's really powerful. That's really powerful, Hinson. I want to know a little bit more about your background in traditional finance and how you started getting drawn into Web3 from that. It's incredible that you have these contacts with people that you can actually talk to customers, find out what their pain points are, and of course, being able to speak the language of finance and already having the background puts you in a position, to speak the language well and connect in a way that that people without that background cannot. So, where exactly did you kind of start your journey, and what was it that brought you specifically to Web3?
Yeah, and actually, to be frank, I'm not exactly that deep into traditional finance or having an extensive background. As you can see from my Asia face, I'm not too experienced in the industry either. I started off as a management trainee at Citi, like a small relationship manager kind of role. But that kind of gave me a bunch of kind of exposures that, for example, some clients that, the team following up, they want to go for M&A. We got the exposure to talk to the investment banking division. Sometimes clients doing some international trade, they want to hedge the FX, foreign exchange. We talk to the global markets teams. So this kind of experience gave me a lot of idea on how the financial industry just work as a whole. But frankly, I didn't really have a deep understanding into how each of these operations work. But I have a pretty good kind of overview since the relationship manager role is kind of the center of the clients. They come to us pretty much in tech term we call a load balancer of different products inside the bank. And we also got different ideas working with other financial institutions as well as part of the normal kind of day-to-day discussion with clients, discussion with internally, how the inventory flow, like which product the global markets team want to sell more in a particular period, for example, that kind. So eventually, it's like when I got fascinated about the blockchain industry, my first ever instinct is there are a lot of missing puzzle without a very specific idea on what exactly is the one product that we kind of want to build. Just in general, the industry in general is extremely early.
Yeah.
So we get into that from that particular angle. But that experience also bring me kind of a kind of a head start when it comes to talk to the potential users. Like we could jump into the finance talk very quickly, like talking pips by pips, and yeah, this kind of jargon, so you can pick up immediately. This is kind of my unique experience bring me into that particular position. And also getting into the blockchain early, kind of not extremely early, still kind of early, give me another side of this as well. Like I could still talk to the icon developer on which validator should do what kind of check and double spendings, satisfaction, those kind of things. Like somewhere in the middle, but we cannot claim ourselves like extremely deep into any one of those area. But it's kind of in the sweet spots that make us in a position to think of what kind of product makes sense on the blockchain and makes sense to the traders. Yeah, somewhere in the middle.
That's awesome, Hinson. As I said, I'm a big fan of your product, and I've used it early on. I really like the user interface, the way things work. You don't feel it's running on the blockchain or settling on the blockchain. Let's be specific about this. The two things that I noticed in the beginning, at least, was that the order size or the amount of trade that I could make as a trader was kind of limited. We were talking about $50 to $100 and whatnot at that point. I haven't checked it recently, but do you have an idea of who is using your product, and have these volumes picked up?
Yeah, actually, so far our volume didn't pick up that rapidly, and we are still kind of looking at this issue, and we have some hypotheses to test in coming few weeks. Like I remember the first time we ever talked is probably talking about our version 1. Version 1 is something that we didn't really have an official release actually. It's somewhat in the 2024, I think, early 2025. That's the period that we still didn't really get into hydra yet, and we have a lot of tricks happen on the L1 directly, so we could still fulfill the three product promises. But for every transaction eventually happening on Cardano L1, there have to be kind of 0.17 ADA at least as a protocol fee. So this arrived at the minimum order size of $100 or 100 ADA, somewhat like that in the past. But when we pivoted into the hydra rate of doing it, which is the 2025 November, we have the first hydra version 1, we call it internally. There are a lot of versions. Yeah. After that, we already removed the limitations. Like it's simply a spam prevention limitation we posted, which is $5 as the minimum order size. Just we don't want people to keep spamming with minimal dust orders to kind of mess up the matching engines. So it's more traditional computer softwares that kind of design. But essentially, after we get into hydra, we opens up a whole bunch of imagination about the product, because in our layer 1 version, there are a lot of limitations that's actually coming from the building a dApp on L1. But in hydra, we set mean UTXO as 0 and all those kind of things. We can just essentially build what exists on Binance, for example. So it's going back to a very pure kind of startup mentality or product mentality to think about what is needed from the community and whatsoever. We are kind of just still figuring all those things. Like in the past 2 years, we put excessive focus into the technology and how to bring it live. But now we are kind of tackling as a business problem.
No, that's awesome. That's an awesome problem to tackle, and I'm sure that you're getting a lot of support from the community, because I've seen many people liking your products, and interacting with it, and talking about it, and I personally welcome this kind of initiatives on Cardano, because, as you know, the main chain is a little bit slow for these kind of applications to exist. So Hydra is a natural product fit, a technology fit for this kind of product. Now, if I were to basically go into the DeltaDeFi right now and put in a $100,000 order, or play with 100,000, would I be able to do that?
You can technically, but the current liquidity is not there yet.
Okay.
Currently, we are internally, in our roadmap, there's two distinct problems that we're trying to solve. One you mentioned, one you hit into a raw for your hypothesis right now is a supply problem. Is how we could deepen the order book. And theoretically, we are in a kind of good position capital efficiency wise, because we are just an order book. The good thing about order book is if we put in 100K in liquidity, we could pretty much have a pretty good utilization about it. Maybe it's up to 60% at max, that we could simply just put the order on book, and within 1% slippage and whatsoever. So this is a supply side problem that we're trying to tackle. During the period we have our full launch, we call our full launch is the Hydra version 2, which is the one that you see right now if you visit the website. Because November we have the first launch, but there's really a rush run. Like, for example, if you want to place order denominated in a stable, you cannot get a precise order instruction on that, because everything under the hood is ADA driven. But in a kind of in the period of November to January, the 2 months, we built the entire thing to really having the spot trading, having the exact user experience as Binance. Then right now we could have a lot of different more combination, like placing in denomination of cold quantity or base quantity. Like, you could do it in the both way. So right now, also during the period like November to now, we are testing a bunch of market making mechanisms with some testing money, and we have some good numbers tracking so far. Like, for example, when you go to the website, you see the thin order. We have 2 to 3 market making bots running at the same time. Like, we have the traditional market making bot, which is pretty much exactly the same as people doing with Binance or with stock markets. That one we are running into a pretty good delta neutral strategy, as having a yield kind of promising to the capital deployed. So that is one thing, and right now we are in a stage of kind of confidence about the software, and we are doing some traditional fundraising. It's not fundraising for the startup, but raising for the liquidity. Like, we can have some sort of loan agreement locally with the financial institutions or high net worth individuals to get these staples to deploy into these market making formula or strategies. So eventually it's like everything is ready. When the monies arrive in our account, the book could be kind of deepened immediately with a very high capital efficiency. To put into perspective, if you want to enable a similar spread of liquidity for a normal swap, you need typically like 100x of money. Like, put in 1 million gets you 1 to 2K within 1% of slippage. But put in 1 million in DeltaDeFi for this market making, you get 500K. that's very traditional finance driven. And we have one very traditional finance strategy of building up the liquidity. And we are also one kind of a more DeFi mentality way of building liquidity. One particular strategy, which is we open source it also, is we tested on a kind of automated market making swap kind of formula deployed on an order book. We fork Hummingbot, the trading, con trading framework, and then add a strategy on top. Is mimicking the AMM formula X times Y equals to K with concentrated liquidity tweaks also. And so far we run into a pretty stable performance also. Like if the price is kind of mean reversion, it's running into a positive yield so far. Like we tested with a less scale of capital right now, just try to make sure all the percentage makes sense. And in coming few weeks, we are launching a kind of a hyperliquid like decentralized vault, so that people could just simply deploy their capital or deposit into this vault and run one of these kind of yield generating strategies and open up another side of retail driven liquidity deepening. So the implication is for our CEX price traditional market making bot, we don't really have to maintain an extremely cold spread about it. There's a market force with that also automated market making like retail driven cross over the order book so that we could very likely having a within 5 bips of spread, and most of the time with very efficient capital. That's kind of the first time in Cardano history that I'm confident that in the coming few months we could enable a 10 to 15K market order on DeltaDeFi within 30 bips of slippage.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. I think one of these pain points, as you've probably known, is that once you place an order on any, I've seen people complain at least about DEX Hunter. You know, you place an order, you pay like $300 in fees or whatnot, and because of the slippage and all these fees that they add, and if you manage to exchange, to provide the exchange services for the fraction of that cost and the speed. And I've always emphasized these things, and people don't seem to understand in Cardano, some people at least, that speed matters. When you're doing the exchange, speed matters a lot, and you cannot just rely on a 20-second block time to actually settle, because if you're running some sort of a strategy that is dependent on the exact pricing, you will not be able to do it. And the fact that you guys do it is in a secure manner is pretty impressive. But my question to you is, are you still running, by the way, are you still running on Hydra version, the normal Hydra heads at this point, or are you trying to move to another Hydra version? And the reason I'm asking is that if you are if you are an investor or the trader, and you come into DeltaDeFi and you start putting money in, there is a ceiling, right? Because you open a the Hydra head with a certain amount of money, and you cannot update it before you basically close it and commit whatever state it is in. There is a solution to that. It's called Hydra Zoa. Are you guys looking into this? So make sure that the head stays open all the time without having to close it and have disruptions, so to say.
That is a technical issue that we have already resolved with
the main branch of Hydra technology. There's somewhat a lot more happening under the shadows that is not too easy to communicate with the community as well. This is also why I get a little bit frustrated if you see the last governance actions that we try to post. We try to say that how much contribution we do in the Hydra thingy, but at the end of the day, when you communicate with DREP, it's just extremely difficult to quantify the impact on that side. So I think it's fine. Politics communication is another things. I'm not getting extremely frustrated about it right now, but in short is that all those problem or questions you just mentioned is valid by the time we decided to use Hydra. It's like the September of 2024. We also found those limitation also, namely the reliability of hydra and the money flow of hydra and limited participants of hydra head. These are the real limitations, but we have kind of solved it in different kind of way combined together, innovative way, or simply improving the hydra technologies. So in short, as a conclusion, right now, there's a major upgrade in the coming weekend that we're likely having in 1 day or so, or maybe less downtime of DeltaDeFi. We move into a way as we could process constant deposit and withdrawal at a interval of perhaps 15 to 30 minutes each. Like if you place a deposit transaction or withdrawal transaction on DeltaDeFi, on the next half an hour, you will already see it on your wallet or inside the platform. It's pretty much the identical experience when you try to send money in or out Binance. These are the incremental commit and decommit stabilization. This is the major work that we have been working with Hydra team in the past 3 months, essentially. We are very close to simply exposing all of our backend data to them for debugging and whatsoever. And we have posted some commit to the Hydra branch also, helping to fix the issues. But right now, the product promises is given limited participants on Hydra head, but we have a cryptographically safe way to support infinitely many users. Simply resolve it in the key side of thing. Similar analogy you could say in Cardano L1. I think this is a kind of a fallacy that a lot of people have, is that the number of users is not limited to the number of node hosters. In Cardano, we have 3,000 something SPO, but users definitely more than 3,000. So there's separate set of people. And this side, we solve the number of users in the DeltaDeFi side, deposit and withdrawal, incremental commit and decommit. Always open head. We kind of, the reliability of Hydra right now is up to the standards that we could never close the head, simply using the incremental commit decommit to process the deposit and withdrawal. So right now, Hydra is not a main blocker of our product right now. They have all the fundamental things that we need. The next things that we are working with them is to increase the scalability, because we are not using Hydra as the same way that they would expect user to use it. We a lot of time we have more than 10,000 UTXO, which might have some performance implications. So sometimes if we go to DeltaDeFi and you see all the processing takes sometimes a few seconds, is running into some congestion and a very high throughput or numbers of UTXO set in Hydras. This is something that we have been discussing with them in past month also, and we have a concrete idea on how to solve it. So there are a lot of this kind of upgrade under the hood, but the good thing is for what's supporting our product promises is already there. Nothing uncertain that we really have to look around about the technology. So that's why, coming back to my claim a few minutes ago, we're purely focusing on the product and business problem rather than the technology right now.
That's incredible. That's incredible progress, Vincent. And I totally understand your statement about it can be challenging sometimes to articulate the contributions you're making in a way that everybody understands, because it's exceedingly complex. In light of that, maybe we could step back for a second. For people who don't have a deep understanding of Hydra, maybe you could give a little bit of an overview about how Hydra works and why you selected it to run the DEX.
Yeah. So Hydra is a state channels. So what's state channel? Essentially is payment channel plus
smart contract. So when the most famous payment channel in the blockchain ecosystem
is probably a lot of people know. It's a Lightning network from the Bitcoin ecosystem. A lot of people simply using Lightning network for payment. So in Cardano, we have this Hydra state channel where this Lightning payment plus Cardano smart contract, essentially. So this is where it's getting started. And we originally choose Hydra to build on. For frankly, we didn't think much about the scaling alternative,
because by the time we run into the decision, Hydra is the only thing that works in Cardano.
And when we having our L1 version of DeltaDeFi in 2024. This is essentially what's kind of fit in our product promise perfectly. And by the first time I hear about Hydra, I have the same concern as we mentioned, like
the reliability, like a deposit withdrawal, like all those kind of things.
And actually it was in a physical setting in Singapore, September 2024, in the token 2049, that I have a chance to sit by the side with Trim, which is the product manager of Hydra at that time. We spent an afternoon to discuss about how to move DeltaDeFi from a L1 protocol into a Hydra protocol. I come with a lot of questions that, but it doesn't work. There's also only 4 participants. How can I support all the users? Then we have all those architecture design actually back in a physical setting. And we have a kind of a design session, at least to
get all the unknown checked, then we move into decision and move into Hydra.
So yeah, this is a kind of the early story, but the technology itself, we don't have to think it as a kind of too fancy or complicated side of thing. And there's also a known limitation of Hydra is that you have to sacrifice a bit of decentralizations, because in Cardano L1 there's 3,000 more SPO. Those are the trust pools that you're relying on. But on Hydra, when we progress, even right now, we progress with the decentralization, we likely stabilize at like 4 node operators. You have to trust the 4 node operators. The good thing is at least one honest participant could protect your fund from being malicious drain. But this is the real limitation. But this essentially, from our product perspective, is not too bad. If you look at all other ecosystem, all the scalable products, they're somewhere sitting in between, just a few to 10 of nodes. Like all the famous L2 in Ethereum ecosystem. Even right now, there is a few that's only trusting one single parties. So these are all those kind of product promise versus decentralization. There's a
spectrum of blockchain products users that they could just choose whichever points that they feel comfortable in and get involved with different products.
Yeah.
And from the adjacent ecosystem, we found that, this is kind of a reasonable sacrifice. Yeah.
No, I would say that I would hope that Hydra is a little bit more secure than the L2 on Ethereum, which I hear that they have these admin keys that can drain the wallet without any, repercussions or whatnot. At least on Hydra, you have at least one honest player can basically collapse the head and require the settlement. And that requires, I believe, making sure that everything is secure and the funds have been used in a way that is secure, or not have been stolen.
But to be frank, in the most fundamental part, like if the malicious participant is sufficiently technical, the actual trust bottleneck is identical across different ecosystems.
So you're saying that even in Hydra that problem persists.
Yes.
Okay.
Because what you mentioned is a kind of operational side of security Hydra has provided. But after everything, if let's say we are malicious and we know how to craft a specific transaction to do some sort of draining, that could still happen. This is the kind of fundamental design bottleneck of decentralizations. The blockchain trilemmas still exists, just in different forms that people might perceive.
All about trade-offs for sure.
Yeah. No, this still is an immense sort of movement towards basically integrating the efficiency, the capital efficiency, especially of traditional finance, and bringing it into the blockchain. And I can still applaud your efforts, and whatever you're doing is just, especially on the Cardano layer, is just very welcome. But I want to kind of switch things up a little bit. Tom and I have been discussing this We wanted to kind of get your opinion on, and Tom may elaborate the question a little bit more, but we want to get your opinion about the future of DEXs and dApps in the light of agentic AI age. Do you think agentic AI possesses a risk to your type of protocols, that the decentralized DEXs basically, or it's an opportunity to enhance its feature set and create a new sort of platform that people can use using, maybe trade using AI agents?
Yep. Actually, this is an area that we have looked into also. And internally, we are using a lot of AI, like in our team. Even there are some workflow that we are already kind of automated already, like inside DeltaDeFi. We spend quite a lot of efforts looking into AI and its surrounding usage. And one elephant in the room is it, yeah, definitely how kind of DeltaDeFi could be a little bit more agentic also. And we run into, we have conducted some researches, and as a conclusion, there's more opportunity than risk to DeltaDeFi specifically, because the, the thing about agentic thing is, if you, for example, hear about OpenClaw, if you use OpenClaw for your personal assistant, the biggest threat is it will do a lot of things that you don't want it to do, like posting your private information online, try to delete off your files in your computers. So the thing about agentic product design in general is on the um, kind of how to restrict what it could do with it. And if you think about it in a trading specific context, what we want to do is, for example, having a specific API key that can only trade on specific pairs with specific exposures and specific rights. And there are some guardrails, for example, when you lose some sort of money, then it will be deactivated, and for something like that. You don't want the agents to be too powerful to move your money out of the system entirely, pay for something randomly. So essentially, it's about right restrictions. And when we think about that, it's actually having a kind of an opportunity for a product like DeltaDeFi, where we didn't really shy away from centralizing a lot of processes under the hood. We have the ultimate cryptography right preserved for the users, that still your key, your fund, you cannot move anywhere. But it's about, for example, the matching engine recognizes off-chain, a lot of pre-processing and post-processing, that those kind of data feeding, those kind of thing is kind of off-chain also in DeltaDeFi's design. So it's actually much more easiest for us to impose the restrictions on those keys. And for example, if you want agents to trade your fund automatically across different strategy and whatsoever, in DeltaDeFi, first of all, we don't have the frictions to impose more restriction off chain, because it's already the things that we being extremely transparent since day one. And second thing is, even if we want to post some explicit smart contract restrictions on the ledger itself, it's also more flexible to us, because running into a hydra head, no matter it's like one more chess, 10 more guardrails, or 100 more validation logics, we're still running into zero fee. But if you post those restrictions on chain in the L1 protocol, you will see the transaction fee will have a obvious uptick. So essentially, I think we are in a kind of good position to integrate with agentic workflow. But on this basic, on the future agentic economy, everything's talked about in APIs. Like we are kind of in a level playing field with, for example, Binance, those kind of player. Obviously, there's not too much of comparative advantage, except the money flow in and out is more decentralized. For example, you send the money into Binance, you're still uncertain whether your money will arrive, because there's a chance that there are some KYC hurdles that, there's we have to ask some more questions before you could do anything with your money. But there's actually a better fit with this kind of product in this sense, even though API level is at par. Like API is the basic of agentic economies because agents talk in codes, but not UI interface. And after that, it's like how reliable that the withdrawal and deposit could be arrived as expected. So this on this level is kind of on the level playing field with major protocols like Hyperliquid, Esters, those kind. So I think, yeah, it's actually having more opportunity than posing threats on how we operate right now. And the upgrade onto the feature support is actually quite lightweighted from our point of view. Yeah.
All right. This brings another question to mind since you brought up Binance. Kind of projecting forward in time, how do you kind of imagine the future of centralized exchanges with the rise of the agentic economy? We're hearing over and over about how simple these flows can be when people have agents that they can trust just interacting on their behalf. And you could say, just be conducting trades by speaking to your phone and let the agents go. Do you see DEXs as a potential future of completely overwhelming the market and making centralized exchanges obsolete at some point? Or do you imagine there'll be a place for centralized exchanges? What's sort of the balance in your mind?
Yeah, I think eventually there's some sort of element of competition for sure, because the product itself is the same. But the more when I run into thinking about running as a business for DeltaDeFi, the more I find out that the user segment is actually quite largely separated. Because with centralized exchange, there must be always true that there are more products that they could build. Like there's less restriction on how the blockchains restricted the money flow and whatsoever. There's more flexibility in that lens, and they could also move faster. And one thing that I learned about when I try to build DeltaDeFi is a lot of people treasure security, but security is not the same as perceived security.
Right.
And most people actually like perceived security than security. So when you recall a time that Yuta posted on Twitter and summarized when he talked to some Japanese community member why they don't use MinSwap or DeFi whatsoever, the simple answer is they see the money going out from the wallet and they feel insecure. But as we are more technically savvy with the Cardano ecosystem, and we know that the money is definitely secure going into MinSwap. So this is the thing. Most people treasure perceived security, but not security itself. So platform like Binance and centralized exchange still have a place because those exactly serve the people's treasure more perceived security. And DEX is almost certain that the perceived security will be worse because in a kind of decentralized protocol, you're not sure who you're trusting. Those are so distributed. You cannot hunt down for someone if they do something bad for you, but you could always go at CC when it's trading. So the user segment is very, very different. And there's also, no matter for good reason or bad reason, a lot of people don't want to send in money into CEX or don't want to ever leave the money out of CEX also. Those are very different kind of user segments essentially. And I would see there's a spectrum of projects like the most decentralized ones as we see current deploy on Cardano L1 for example, and we somewhat standing in the middle is like L2-ish, trust assumption tightened a little bit, more close to CEX, that kind of experience, and CEX itself. So there's a spectrum of product that can coexist. And eventually, I don't think there's exactly only competition. There's also complementary element also.
Yeah.
Like for example, when going back to the very first question in this interview, like what's the user pattern and whatsoever, we have observed some of our power users on DeltaDeFi. We are seeing some frequent arbitrage against MinSwap actually. So it's the existence of product like DeltaDeFi is also by the same time boosting the trading volume of MinSwap
Right.
at the same time. So although we are kind of having the same trading pairs, but the thing is the trading volume is kind of 2x by the same time. Like we are creating demands of the typical financial market interactions by having a fitting in a puzzle in the spectrum of the thing. And for us, we are mostly operating in DeltaDeFi and CDX for hedging for our market making activities. So we're bringing the volume to Binance also. So after everything is the product like DeltaDeFi exists, the 3 new trades created in 3 different segments.
Oh.
So yeah. So I think my perspective is it's very likely that different platforms still coexist in the futures and is serving different kinds of users.
It's fascinating, Hinson, to talk to you and get your views about how these things work, and especially the I didn't know that users using your platform actually boost the yield, the volume. Now that you mention it, it makes sense. Of course, if you have 3 trading venues, the price differs. You basically deploy on all 3 venues or whatnot, and try to arbitrage. This is a simple basic sort of finance 101 is basically I used to do this manually. I used to do these kind of things manually, and I couldn't believe my eyes that these kind of arbitrage opportunities actually existed across the sexes too, by the way. You could easily make like 4% on one trade early in the days, especially if the volatility takes off. But I'm glad that my markets are becoming more efficient, and platforms such as DeltaDeFi are contributing to that kind of efficiency. In closing remarks, Hinson, if there's anything you would like to let our viewers know, please feel free to talk to them directly. I'll definitely post your links on the comments to this video. I wish you the best of luck.
Yeah. So I mentioned it right now, right?
Yeah.
So I think in the past interviews, or actually the past 2 years, what we're doing with DeltaDeFi is we have a excessive focus onto the supply side of running an exchange, like making the technology work. And right now we try to deepening the liquidity. Those are the supply side of the equation. But another thing is we are still trying to learn how to do so. It's on the demand side of the thing. So for this exchange actually have to work, we have to nail at both sides of the supply and demand equation. So for the demand side, we are essentially converted into actual behavior is the market order taking the liquidity exists on DeltaDeFi. There's one thing that I kind of also want to try to market here is that with the design of DeltaDeFi and our market making capability, we are already at most kind of always having the best price for the trading pairs that we're supporting. Like for example, the ADA to stable, we are keeping 50 bits of spread even at the worst time. So whenever you want to trade ADA or Night, those 2 pairs are very likely will focus on in the coming 6 months. Yeah, just feel free to check out DeltaDeFi. And if you don't feel like using it, even though it's having a better price, do let me know what you actually would like to see. And yeah, we'll try to make it more accessible to typical users. Yeah, I think that's the only message that I want to bring to a wider community and viewers. And also thank you for having me today.
Hinson, it was a pleasure. Tom, anything else you want to add?
No, just thanks for coming on, Hinson, and teaching us about your product and giving us more insight into Hydra and the future for what you're coming. Thanks for your continued innovations to the ecosystem and your commitment. Really fantastic.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
It was a blast. Thank you so much, Hinson. Hey, Tom, that was a great interview. What do you think?
Yeah, first of all, I really like Hinson's energy. He's constantly smiling. He's got so much enthusiasm. Great to see the entire team there behind him. He said they're all working from the same house. They live together and work together. It's kind of like a fantasy to work in that environment. And it reminds me of the early seasons of Silicon Valley, where all the founders and the team were living in the same house.
It definitely got those vibes too. But I mean, it just it's such a great thing to basically witness a startup company uh, finding a way to use technology to bring in an efficient market, hypothesis basically into the blockchain, and building products to make trades easier on Cardano. And as I mentioned many times by now, but I really appreciate the efforts that bridge the gap between the traditional finance that I'm used to, interacting with any of these platforms in the traditional finance. You don't have this frictions or complications that you have on the blockchain side. And if there's a product that does that, I think DeltaDeFi does an excellent job bridging that gap. And it was quite an insightful interview. I didn't know that their product basically boosted the volume on all the other exchanges. But then again, it goes to show how interconnected things can become when you integrate capital efficiency. And
Yeah.
it was great. And I particularly really liked the idea of going into the AI with these type of products. I think AI definitely likes low friction. It likes high speed, and with regards to those, I think the more of these kind of protocols, Cardano or Apex Fusion, try to house, the more it will be ready for the next generation of you know call it crypto 2.0. I wanted to ask you actually, is there anything happening on Apex Fusion with regards to AI?
Come on. Yeah. We're building a full agentic economy there. I just deployed agents on Vector Testnet and Mainnet yesterday. We've got a very easy onboarding process to do that. That any person can use this package to deploy agents using Claude Code. You don't have to be technical at all. It interacts with all the different tooling, all the different tooling that people are familiar with for Cardano. Does it on Apex. And of course, Vector is the platform of choice for that because of the speed, the sub-second finality, and the low cost. So it's a great place for agents to interact. These activities are, of course, directly tied with the work that Well-Typed and the Cardano engineers are doing in the Cardano community with Takis, the SIP that's been published there. And we've got this video will be released after that, but we go into detail on all those activities on the Apex Fusion X Spaces, which are typically on Thursdays. And that's a major strategic decision by Apex Fusion to go full agentic. And there's a whole lot of things that will be coming out. Like I said before, it's evolving by the hour. So we'll have to come back on the show and talk specifically about that and why people should care at some point in the future.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great way to close this episode. I think my personal view, it kind of like mirrors yours, Tom, is that agentic AI will take over the retail activity in crypto. I think as the way you mentioned it, it's a force multiplier. If there's like one user, for each one user, you might have tens of thousands of AI agents basically working on his behalf, and the platforms, the blockchains that have easy interoperability with standards that AI uses. X4012, I think, is another one that integrates payments, and I'm assuming it's going to be used for agentic AI to make transactions, interact with your wallet. those type of things, when platforms become, the blockchain platforms become friendly to those kind of standards, I think they're gonna have a huge competitive advantage over the
Yes,
others.
and that's where the Cardano community should be really excited, because for those of us that have been thinking about this, it's very clear that UTXO is the right choice for running agents, because it does not have the same problems that other blockchain has, right? Like with front running and MEV and blind signing. And, when we build the guardrails into the protocol for AI agents, it's going to make UTXO the obvious choice, right? And we've already deployed X402. Agents are able to transact with each other on Vector right now, and we're just to the point where all of the team and also partners are deploying agents, and they can build smart contracts. The other day they built a DEX, like they
Wow.
can, yeah. I mean, so it really unlocks the human creativity as the agentic economy as a concept evolves. Everybody is armed to participate in this directly today, and we're just at the start of something. I'm so tired of saying how early we are in blockchain, but it's like we're perennially early because things are always moving so fast.
Yes, yes. The more you spend time in crypto, the more you realize how early you are, and then with the AI coming into the blockchain, I think it's just like we are just starting. But as you said, everything is changing by the hour, and before you know it, you're gonna be an OG in this space. So
Yeah, that's right.
anyway, I'd like to talk to the Apex Fusion team specifically about the AI. Not now that this topic has become more prominent at some point in the future, but this is a great way of basically closing this one and letting the viewers know that we're gonna have something better in store. Not that this wasn't good, but something more exploratory and maybe hands-on that we could explore on Apex Fusion in the future.
Yeah,
But
actually, that's a great point. So
yeah,
the
we could
package
do a demo.
the package has been deployed and is available online, so anybody can deploy agents on Vector right now using this technique. So we can go over on a podcast together. That'll be fun.
Absolutely, and I will post the links to those repos and whatnot on the sections on the comment section of this video also. But we definitely will have to do another one on that.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you so much for joining. I'm Umed Saidov, and Tom Flynn, my co-host, and this was Slot Leader.